So recently I added Asbestos to my side-scrolling game, and I actually themed the second level around it. Now I'm not aware of any other games that prominently feature Asbestos, but I think it has a lot of potential as an interesting level hazard. Asbestos is a great insulator, which is why it's commonly been used as a building material. Unfortunately, the fibers can also be very dangerous when inhaled, which is why it's been almost entirely banned in many countries. The first idea I had for the game was to add asbestos piles that cause damage when the fibers are disturbed, for example when jumped from and jumped on. I've actually implemented this already, and it was very easy to set up. The player just checks if it's above an asbestos pile whenever jumping or landing. I think this could make certain platforming segments more interesting, but it's probably most useful adding difficulty to enemy encounters. For example, when trying to kill this enemy that throws projectiles. You're only in danger around asbestos when jumping, so you need to mind where you jump when dodging attacks. I was thinking about other ways to use asbestos in interesting ways. Maybe you could have some kind of machine that grinds up raw asbestos and releases fibers into the air, and you have to dodge the asbestos clouds. Or maybe one area is so saturated with asbestos fibers that you have to turn on some kind of ventilation system to progress. Regardless of what mechanics I choose to implement, at the very least, an asbestos mine is a pretty unique setting for a level, so I'm quite happy with it. That being said, I didn't only work on asbestos since the last update. I also started work on the second level as a whole, which includes a layout, tile set, new lighting system, and a few other things. The tile set in particular is something I paid a lot of attention to. If you remember the tile set of the first level, the grass tiles only have one internal tile, which is reasonable for a fairly uniform texture. The asbestos tiles, on the other hand, have large identifiable fibers sticking out, which wouldn't tile very well on their own, so I chose to make the internal tiles 3 times as large. The problem now is that not every tile can connect seamlessly to a border tile. This was easily fixed by making the borders their own set of tiles and putting the internal rocks behind them, but this resulted in certain limitations, like not being able to have smooth corners, because that would reveal the tiles in the back. The reason I point out the tile set is because I want to show how much thought can go into a seemingly unremarkable feature. I probably spent less time building the new lighting system. All it is a dark plane overlaid on the screen, with light emitted by the lanterns subtracting from the darkness. Despite its simplicity, it's still a very appealing effect. I'm not saying it's bad or anything, just simpler to implement on the development side. Now that that's done, I want to talk a bit more about the level design itself. Unlike the first level, which is very easy and simple, I want this level to be much more difficult and action-oriented, in a way more representative of how I want the rest of the game to be. At the beginning, there's a safe area, but immediately to the right, there's a large platform that summons a bat when you jump on it. Next, there's a short asbestos platforming challenge, and then a jump leading into a combat encounter. I know it's not that interesting yet, but I hope you could start to imagine what kind of level this will be. I don't have much to say about the enemies yet. The bat just moves forward, and the other enemy throws projectiles at a predictable rate. I suppose one interesting thing about the unnamed enemy is that it always tries to stay a certain distance from the player, so if you move away from it, it will try to pursue you, but if you move closer, it will try to move away. The bat is actually summoned through a trigger, and this is the first time I've used a trigger in this game. The trigger is essentially an invisible square that runs some code when it touches the player, and it's an extremely versatile tool. Here only one bat is summoned, but if you wanted you could summon 50 of them. And that's basically everything I've been working on lately. I will definitely try to improve this level much more by adding new features and improving what's here. So if you want to keep up with future updates, please consider subscribing. Thank you. Bye.